so I'll call this meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm you can hear me by verifying that you are present, starting with the commissioners. Travis?
Present.
Jonathan?
Present.
He's not on yet. Oh, very good. Good timing. Thank you. And Patrick?
Present.
With staff, Leah?
Present.
And Jan?
Present.
Thank you. And we'll also go to the speaker. So if you can hear me, unmute yourself and just respond, just so that we can know that you're here and that you can hear us. Speakers for 145 Millbury Street, Robert Murphy. Okay. Leah, is he on yet, or you can't tell?
I don't see him.
Okay. And then Kelly and Mark Benoit.
I don't see them either.
Okay. And then for 37 Magnolia Lane, Scott Jordan.
Present.
Thank you. And Christopher Campos.
Present.
Thank you very much. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as extended on June 15th, 2021, February 12th, 2022, and July 16th, 2022. Access information for the public has been provided on the town's website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. If you're using a dial-in by telephone feature, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. After speakers conclude their remarks, I'll invite each commissioner to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After the commissioners have spoken, I will allow public comment to be spoken by participants. Participants may use their raise hand feature by clicking the hand icon on the bottom right of the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. If you are using a dial-in by telephone feature, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute you when you are called upon. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. Finally, each vote will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview need to be addressed to the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed by the select board. Traffic concerns must be addressed with the planning board. All right. Seeing that it's 7:04, 7:05 now. Leah, any action items that we can take up?
Any really, if you want to just go down the list, works fine with me.
Hey, sounds good. So hopefully everyone has seen the meeting minutes and have had a chance to read it. So if there's no comments or questions or suggestions, if I can have a motion to approve the February 7th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the February 7th meeting minutes.
And do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Patrick?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. All right. Next up is an extension request for the Stowe Road culvert by the town of Grafton. Any specific information on this, Leah, or is it pretty straightforward?
It's pretty straightforward. They had some supply chain delays, as everybody does these days. So they're asking for another 2 years. This is their first extension request.
Okay. If no one has any questions on this, both state and local allows extensions, so this is fairly straightforward. Glad they came in. So do I hear a motion to provide an extension for the Stowe Road culvert by the town of Grafton?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to extend the Stowe Road culvert, Town of Grafton.
Second.
All right, do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. We have a second extension request for Route 122A reconstruction. And again, this is Town of Grafton DPW. Is there two separate notice of intents, or is one the stormwater?
You mean this one versus the one we just did?
It's just a different location. It's both by the
Yeah,
town, but
different
different
projects.
one. Gotcha, okay. Is this the first time they've requested extension on this also?
Yeah, it is, and they're looking for another 2 years. They had a bit of a delayed start for the bidding process.
Okay. Do I have a motion to, for this extension request?
I'll motion to approve the extension request for the Route 122A restriction.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Let's see what time. We still got time here. Request for certificate of compliance for 179 Upton Street.
So this and the following one for 183 Upton Street are the two parcels known as the Robinson lots that the town's going to be purchasing. So no work under these orders, which were for single-family houses, has commenced. We just need to clear them off the title.
Gotcha. And this is being submitted by the Robinsons, the owners, to
Yep.
get so that the purchase can move forward. Okay. So should we do them separately or both together?
You can do it together, just make sure you say both addresses, please.
Okay, we'll do that. So do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance? First, before I go there, does anyone have any questions on this? I mean, this is, they had they had order of conditions and now they're not going to do the work. So that's why they're clearing the book. So based on that, can I have a motion for both 179 Upton Street and 183 Upton Street to issue a certificate of compliance?
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 179 Upton Street and 183 Upton Street.
Do I have a second? Got a
Second.
motion, a second, roll call. Thank you. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Request for partial certificate of compliance for Highfields.
I
Update
feel
on
like,
this?
yeah, I feel like we need a little bit more than 5 minutes. So
Okay.
if you wanted to go to the two continuances, 61
Okay.
Leland and 58 Follette, you could read in and continue those.
Sounds like a plan. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of driveway, garage, and paddock at 61 Leland Street. The applicant has requested a continuance to March 7th. Do I hear a motion to continue 61 Leland Street?
Motion to continue to March 7th.
Do I have a second? Yeah, motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The motion carries. All right, next one. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a cell tower driveway at 58 Follette. And just a quick question, Leah, are they just waiting on planning board? Is that why it keeps getting,
So for a little while, it was planning board and both our peer reviews. Ecotech
Okay.
came in. I think they've been back before the planning board, and then Graves came in today, but they had already asked to continue and wouldn't have had time
Okay.
to address it anyway.
all right, thank you for that information. Do I hear a motion to continue this?
I'll make a motion to continue 58 Follett Street.
Second.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
All right, very good. Anything else, Leah?
Just to clarify, I guess the date certain for that one is also March 7. I don't know if somebody said it and I just missed it, but
Okay.
just to make sure we say that.
I agree with you and just note that, yes. Okay. I've got 7:13.
Does anyone have anyone that they know that's interested in joining Concom?
I try to get someone who works the same company I do who moved to Grafton. He laughed at me because he spent like 10, 12 years on the planning board in his former town. And he feels like he has done his civic duty, so.
Just keep harassing them. I mean, recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like asking anyone who you know that might be interested in whether it's the wetlands or whether open space or something else. We should continue to get the word out there. Any kind of nibbles yet, Leah?
Not as of the last time I asked the town administrator, which is probably a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Leah, is there currently an ad up on our Facebook page or?
Yeah, it's on Facebook and the town website. If you guys want to snag it on Facebook and share it to any groups you belong to. Our page as like a business page, if you will, can't belong to groups, so we can't really blast it out to those networks. So if you guys belong to any and want to share it, the next thing we'll do is hang the we do like a short letter about what Concom is about, and we've hung those up at our properties before at the trailheads.
I can do that. I can share it in a couple places.
All right, 7:15. Public hearings, okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for the construction of a house addition at 145 Millbury Street in Grafton. And who is here to discuss that?
Bob Murphy, Murphy Associates. I'm here representing Kelly Benoit with the RDA for proposed work, as you mentioned, on the rear of their existing house. The initial reason for the RDA, when we were first got involved in this project, I was going by my memory on natural heritage program. They had wood turtles along the back of that property, and I now see that they have revised the map to exclude this property from the area. If you look at the locus map to the upper right, you'll see PH 1025. That's actually wood turtles, and the line used to go well across Millbury Street, but it now has excluded all those houses. So I explained that to the owner that originally I anticipated dealing with natural heritage, but then we didn't have to. So we decided to go with an RDA. And if you look at the flood map, which is a little bit is below the locus, they actually located the river portion in the flooded area. The beavers have dammed up quite a bit of Misco Brook in this area. So there's the land subject to flooding and land underwater has increased dramatically along the rear. So we decided that based upon the maps that we found, we could not be located within the riverfront zone, about 250 feet away from the river. And the buffer zone comes right up to the back of this house. And while the house itself is not in the buffer zone, there'll be some excavation work to develop the foundation. And the machine will be working within the 100-foot buffer zone. So what I've done is to show a limit of work with erosion controls. I treated the site as though, I had filed a notice of intent. So I have the construction sequence, erosion controls, and everything like that. But we just wanted to, let the commission know that we would be working probably 90 feet away from the bordering land subject to flooding. But there's no work proposed really anywhere near the wetlands or in the backyard. It's fairly flat in the backyard. So we don't anticipate an erosion problem anyway. But again, we just wanted to explain to the commission what work we were doing. And we were touching along the edge of the buffer zone with construction equipment. There is no actual construction for the deck or the building in the buffer zone or any resource areas. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Leah, do you have a report out on this particular project?
I did just have a question for clarification. The stone wall and the shed out back, those are pre-existing, right? Not proposed?
Yes, the stone wall has been there probably 50, 60 years anyway. That was done by previous owner. And the shed is existing, yes. So as it shows, the limit of work, that's a limit of work. There's nothing proposed in the majority of the backyard.
Okay. The only other comment I had is that, so you had checked a few questions on the RDA. One was whether the work was jurisdictional under the act and the bylaw, and the other was if we're in agreement with the delineation or not. So just to let the commission know that I'm in agreement with the delineation as far as what I can pick up off of the plan and the aerial and things of that nature, but we did not send it for peer review. I don't know if you're looking for it to be that official or not. Those are my only comments.
All right, thanks, Leah. I mean, basically, we can still move ahead and on the RDA and give a negative and not actually approve the wetlands line because you're so far away from it. Plus, there isn't work specifically within the buffer zone, although you'll be touching it. And on a project like this, we don't see a need to, have this peer reviewed for the proposed project that you have. So I would ask you, Bob, if that's okay, if we just do a finding that, we don't have an issue with the delineation, but we're not, quote, approving it as shown on this plan.
Yeah, that's fine. As I say, the area has been significantly impacted by the beavers. The line, and so what you're seeing here is really the elevation of the high water from the beaver dam. There's no real bordering vegetated wetland here. It's just the edge of the water, really.
Gotcha. All right. I'll go through the commission. So Patrick, any questions?
No, no questions.
Jonathan?
I don't have a specific question, but I did notice that somebody's got their hand raised. It's been raised for a little bit in the chat.
Okay, yep. Thank you. We'll definitely get to the public. And Travis, any questions?
If the brook goes through the pond, does that change the boundary of the river for the regulatory purposes? Does that make sense, Sandy?
Yeah, no, so unfortunately on a pond of this size, especially something created by beavers and so forth, if there's riverine characteristics within that pond, meaning you got flowing water and those type of things, and it doesn't have pond characteristics like stratified temperatures, so there's like a way you define where the edge of the stream stops and a pond starts. In this particular case, I don't know if we really need to do it for this, but I mean, it's a good question. I really don't have a good answer for you. Yeah, but there's definitely a process on how you delineate where one's, stops and starts and so forth. But it is a good question. I'm guessing there's all these kind of guidelines about how big a pond it is whether would be considered a pond, but that's not what I do. But it's, in this case, I don't think it makes a big difference because it would just be a wetlands buffer. So.
Okay, no other questions.
All right. Patrick, any questions? Or did I already ask you? I'm sorry.
You did, but no questions. That's okay.
All right. Sorry about that. This appears pretty straightforward. You have, erosion control indicated there. You are touching the outer buffer, but you're not doing any substantial work. Understand that the existing shed has been there. It's not part of this request. So other than that, is there any special conditions, Leah, that we should be doing?
So I'll change what I have written in my report a little bit based on the conversation we just had. So my suggestion would be to issue a negative determination for the work not being further subject to the act, provided that the limit of work, erosion control, and the measures detailed in the narrative are adhered to. And then I would add the finding that you mentioned, that we don't have any issue with the delineation as shown, but to not consider it an official confirmation at this time.
All right, that sounds good. So at this point, let's move on to public comment. So if you are online and you have a question or comment, we understand someone has a hand raised. So Leah or Jan will kind of give you the opportunity to ask those questions.
All right, Nancy P has raised her hand. I'm going to promote her to talk.
So Nancy, I would just ask you to give your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Nancy Piccone from 3 High Point Drive. I'm just watching your meeting tonight, basically, because the select board was canceled, so I wanted to tune in and see. But I raised my hand right at the beginning. Hopefully you would recognize me. Your link was improperly posted to this meeting, and then it was updated at 4:28 this afternoon. Unfortunately, the Library Board of Trustees had to self-report an open meeting violation last week for doing the same thing. So I just wanted to let you know, if you don't have participants here, it's not quite open to the public that can't navigate the website. So that's just a heads up, and I hope you have a good night. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Leah, if you can just look into that and figure out what the status of the link was.
Sure.
So,
She knows what it was.
yeah. So
I
That's
used
it for the
the link. I used the link that was given to me by email. I didn't have any trouble with it.
yeah, she's referring to what was on the public website. So we can look at that as a follow-up. And I would just note it, Leah, in the minutes, just so that we track it. That's all. Anyone else in the public have any other comments or questions? I'm not seeing anything. If we do see something, we'll go back to you. So we're at this point where we're going to have a vote, and we need a motion to do that. And the motion is going to include that to close the hearing and issue a negative determination, and in a note that a finding that the delineation hasn't been fully approved, and that there's a condition there for negative determination for work further being subject to wetlands protection, provide the limit of work, erosion control, and measures detailed in narratives are adhered to. Is that about right, Leah? Did I mess something up?
I think you're about right. Sorry, I'm looking at this link in the background.
Anyone want to make a motion on that? You can also do a so moved one too.
Trying to find the, go ahead.
So moved.
Okay, Jonathan has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We're going to have a contest here. We're going to have little red buzzers. So I'll
That's
leave that
fine.
to Jan to pick whose second came in first. Based on that, we will do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries, and a negative determination has been issued. So
Thank you very much for
Right.
your time.
have a good one.
Thank
Yep.
you. Take care.
Sandy, can I cut in for a second?
Absolutely.
So what I'm finding, and I'm not sure if Nancy's still on, it looks like the town clerk linked our original link, that the link says it's for 221, goes to an agenda from 2/7. And then when we posted an amended agenda today, it goes to the correct agenda for 221.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where that leaves us in terms of, do we proceed tonight and I talk to the town administrator tomorrow about what we need to do? Or do we need to stop?
So the issue is the fact that there was a link that wasn't correct on the website.
Yes, the original agenda posting for 221 opens the PDF to 2/7 instead.
Gotcha. So it's the agenda that is the misinformation, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, yes, it's the agenda. We did have the link, the direct link on our page separate from the agenda, but the agenda itself did not get posted correctly.
Okay. Good question.
Was the timing and the link, I mean, I get that the 2/7 was posted and linked there, but is the link the same to each meeting, or is it different to each, is it individual
No.
for each?
It's
So
different.
hypothetically, if someone looked at that, then they could have clicked on the wrong one, is I think what the message was, but
Yeah.
Sure.
So, and again, yeah, and I don't know the legal ramifications, enough to say that. I know it has to be posted. Was it 7 days in advance?
48 hours ahead. So
Okay.
if they posted our incorrect agenda, then technically we didn't post an agenda 48 hours ahead for this.
Right. It gets posted at town hall, but most people are not going to go to the town hall. They're going to go to the website. So
Right.
That's a really good question. I don't know what the answer is, because I'm not
Yeah.
an attorney.
Right.
I think one of the things that we can do, and we still have one public hearing, and then we just had finished up one public hearing, is to proceed with that. And then And we'll, on the next one, what we'll do is we'll let them know that there was an issue with the posting of it, and we may have to come back and redo it. I mean, well, I guess one thing that we can do is for 37 Magnolia Lane, and for Chris Campos, if you understand what we're trying to say, is that there's a process that we have to go through for notifying people. And there was an incorrect link on the website for the town. It was correct on the Conservation Commission website. So someone may be able to say that the due process wasn't followed. So, what I'm suggesting is that we kind of go through this, check with the town to see if we should be redoing this, and then we would have to reach out to you. Or you could say, I just want to come back in 2 weeks and get it done. I just want to make sure you understand the potential risk, because all it would take is one person, one abutter, to say, oh, I wanted to comment on this particular hearing, and it was the wrong link, and therefore I didn't do it. So there's a due process thing there that someone could say something. And to be quite honest, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to make a final judgment, but I want to make sure I share with you the reason why we're having this discussion. And so there's a couple ways of doing it. I don't have a basis to say we should cancel this and repost it, but leave it up to you if you have any thoughts. I mean, we can go ahead. It's just that we're at risk that we may have to basically repost this and do it again. But I don't know that for a fact. So, and understand that you're adding a garage bay addition. I get what you're doing, but it's just the process that we're supposed to follow as for a public hearing. It's state law. So,
Chris,
so
I suggest that we just move forward tonight. Do you have an opinion?
yeah. Okay. So I don't mind doing it. I just want to give you the heads up. If we go back to and look at what the actual process was and the timing was, and our attorney suggests that we reach out to you, then we'll have to do something to follow up.
Yep. Understood.
Okay. Does that sound okay, Leah? I mean, it's a new one on me.
Well, I think Chris has his hand up. I guess he's not a panelist.
He should have all abilities to speak.
Am I
Oh,
live
there
here?
you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yes,
great.
you are.
I wasn't sure. I just wanted to give you a verbal yes. I was muted. So yeah, that's fine. We'll follow.
I guess maybe that was a high five. That means yeah.
Yeah, I gave one of these. So yeah, cool. All right. Thank you.
No, that's fine. I mean, it just seems like a waste. If we're all here, we can do it, but then we'll double check. And I just want to make sure you understand that you may get a letter or something for us where we have to do a redo.
Yeah,
So-
we could redo it quickly, presumably. So, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Is there a
So,
timetable
all right.
that would happen within?
I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
Would there be a timetable that would occur within,
Oh, yes. I mean, what we would try to do is to find out this week, if not tomorrow, the next day,
excellent.
this potential, procedural issue, and then we would set it for 2 weeks from today.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
If it is 2 weeks, it should be 2 weeks, the 7th. Okay, so with that, let's get this quote unquote official process going. So, all right, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a garage bay addition at 37 Magnolia Lane. So, Scott, are you presenting or?
Yes. Good evening, Scott Jordan from Ecotech. I'm representing Chris Campos, who is also on, as you know. So I'll get started with the location of the property. It's off Magnolia Lane on the south side of Magnolia. We were out there in November to delineate wetlands within the vicinity of a proposed garage bay addition. In the southern portion of the property, we delineated a BVW with flags A1 to 21. We are showing the 25-foot setback and the 100-foot buffer zone off of that. The proposed project is adding a garage bay to the house. So Chris's elderly parents, who he just bought the property in the last year or so, and his elderly parents live with him. And this will give them a garage bay and then direct access to where they're living in the basement. We will be extending the driveway about 13 feet to do this. And the terminus of the driveway now has a steep slope. You can see the proposed steep slope off the end of the driveway, the new extension. We're going to rip wrap page left, the west side where it's steepest, where we need to grade. And then the other portion, we will seed and erosion control blanketing. That's about a 2-to-1 slope. So we're going to go right with the blanket. Of course, we have a silt fence straw wattle erosion control barrier proposed. We have a stockpiling area out front if needed. What's important to note here is the BVW boundary appears to have encroached northward. I say this on the basis of some existing markers we found on the property. And you can see them, the one near flag A17, A5, A3. We found a few of them out there. This property, I think the order of conditions actually dates back to 05. The house may have been built around 07, this development. And I suspect this may be associated with the stormwater system out there, which all drains to page left from the west side. Actually, there's one more house to the left of Chris, and the stormwater system for the entire subdivision pretty much drains past the house that's to the left of Chris and then behind Chris. So I don't know for certain why, but the area between A5 and A14, there's an encroachment there. And then from A17 to A21, I'm a bit higher than the old approved boundary. Now, when Chris
So
bought this
Jan,
property,
excuse me one minute, Jan, can you zoom in on that area? Thank you.
yeah, so there's a finger right proximate to where we're proposing this work, A5 to A14, that area there. It's a little bit of a lower area. We found hydric soils and some wetland plants. And then from about 17 to 21 also, we're up near the edge of the lawn there with hydric soils. So, you know, when Chris bought the property, he assumed he'd be all set with the garage addition, having seen the markers out back. And then, you know, the delineation turned out to have some higher fingers to it. So therefore, we're requesting a waiver for some work within the 25. I should note that all this work is within existing lawn, within the previously developed area. You can see the tree line. And we have about 380 square feet of work in the 25-foot NDZ. That's some grading, just a snip of the driveway extension, tiny piece of the garage, and some grading work, which again will be immediately stabilized with blankets and riprap. So we are requesting a waiver there. We hope that the kind of strange circumstances, you would take that in consideration. Chris, did you have anything to add?
Yes, you know, my mother and father are actually flanking me this evening. My mom is, you know, registered legally, handicap placard. My dad has had a couple of falls just trying to navigate their entrance to the backyard. It's tough to visualize, but it's very slippery. It's a little steep back there. So the garage would just be a way for them to enter the house directly without, having to venture the outdoors, the ice and slippery conditions out there. So, anything that you guys would be able to afford us would be really, really appreciated.
Leah, as far as, because on here is noted the historical permit wetland marker. We don't usually do wetland markers, right? I mean, I know this is much older. We usually do a 25 foot, so.
That's true, yes.
Correct, yeah.
The old order did have, it required signage around the no disturb at the time. But yeah, not the wetland line, but the no disturb at the time.
Right.
Right. I noted that also. And I don't know if the markers were placed along the wetland boundary, or if the wetland boundary is even encroached further than I stated. So if the wetland is encroached, that would mean it's encroached 25 feet in most areas, and then even further where that finger is. So my assumption was they were placed probably inaccurately along the wetland boundary because they coincide with my line in several areas.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, usually even the buffer zone ones say what it is. So it's not, that's why it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's a little different. So let me first go around the commission to see if anyone has any questions. Travis, any questions?
Can you clarify the total disturbance? Did you say it includes all the grading and any of the riprap within the 25-foot buffer?
Yeah, I don't know if Jan has a cursor, she can show that 25-foot for me near the work there. So right there, yeah. So we've got just a little bit of the proposed driveway extension. Of course, we need the driveway extension to get to the garage, and then the grading below that, and probably 5 or 10 square feet of the corner of the garage there.
Right. And that's all around A8 and A9 and A10, that finger that came up.
Yeah, and it's all within existing lawn.
Okay. No other questions.
Jonathan, any questions?
Nope, that Travis hit on what I was going to ask, kind of how I didn't catch the line either, but I see exactly where it's now. So no
And
question.
all right, thank you. Patrick?
No, I guess I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really going to alter any drainage patterns or anything like that. I mean, the 1-to-1 slope is not great, but if you're going to riprap it, it shouldn't be a problem. And 2-to-1 is a little steep, but if it's properly, planted with the appropriate erosion control and the appropriate, if you're using a blanket and so forth, that should be okay. And it is pretty much just that corner. Can't tell you, I mean, we know wetlands move, can't tell you why it would have moved that much, but anything else to add, Leah?
I was gonna take you guys through the DEP comments. They're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So they just wanted the commission to consider protective measures for the resource areas. So if you guys wanted to do to require a no disturb barrier, and then new signage on that barrier would be my idea. And then they just noted that the old order had some ongoing conditions, which were the prior signage that had been required, a deed restriction that prohibits further resource area alteration, and no fertilizer, herbicide, or pesticide use within the buffer zone. So we could repeat
Those,
that
yep.
deed reference and the last one, and then we could have a new one about the no disturb.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to respond to DEP's comments.
Yeah, so the deed reference is, that's in reference to the subdivision, and that's common to avoid a 401 water quality cert. If you're doing a larger project where you're filling wetland, if you declare there will be not another square foot of wetland filled on this entire property, you can avoid, you get your 401 water quality cert. So that's what the deed reference was. The deed restriction that I think Mia referenced. Yeah, I think those conditions are reasonable, except for that, you know, we wouldn't want to be putting markers at the new 25-foot offset, because that's through our house, that's through our lawn. So if there's an alternative to that, something along the wetland boundary, perhaps.
So that's a good question. I mean, around or along the existing tree line where it's not wetlands going beyond that, that's reasonable. But your question is on the, you know, Plan East, you've got the wetlands now coming up within the lawn. You know, when you were thinking about this, Leo, where were you thinking of the signage to go?
Jan, can you zoom in one more? So I mean, so it's curving back towards the house, so I wouldn't do that part, but where he has the erosion control is kind of what I was thinking.
That is maintain lawn up to the tree line.
Oh, that's right, your tree line is
Yeah.
further south.
Yeah.
We could do the existing tree line. We've done that on other projects
Right.
before.
But what about where you have wetlands now in the lawn?
True.
Again, those, if that's lawfully created lawn area, he can continue to mow that. So I wouldn't want him to necessarily lose any backyard, but I understand your point. We could put 1, 2, 3 along there at some point.
Yeah.
Just continue to mow around. We could put one at A20, A19, and A18 gets us back to the tree line. So it would just be 19 there.
Right. Yeah, I
Although-
think the tree line where the wetlands are within it, I think that's fairly straightforward. It's
Yeah.
really just A19 that you create
Exactly.
I think putting one there, just, you know, you hit one at A18 where it comes in, A19 and A20, as you say, if it's maintained lawn, they can continue doing it. But then again, you can't alter it, and then the homeowner knows where that line was on the state. Does
Correct.
that sound about appropriately, or?
So let me just recap. So signage following the tree line, with the one exception of also one at A19.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I
Yeah,
may
and it's
add
at-
that, I'm sorry.
I was going to say along the hay bale line of the proposed grading work, because that's a little bit, not much, but it's a little bit within the, so it's a limit. So basically it's a limit of work, then it's a tree line, and then it's starting at A18, then the A19 and A20 goes back to the tree line.
Yeah, and I was going to actually offer tree line up to A9. I think would be better for everybody also. That would be more accurate.
Okay.
Tree line to A9, then tree line to A18. Then A19 will be a pin in the edge of the lawn there. And then we'll shoot up to A20.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I don't know if I made sense to anybody else.
I follow.
No, I mean, yeah, this is a little unusual. It doesn't usually
It
bebop
is.
back and forth like this. So one thing I would like to do at this point, and we can continue kind of the conversation here, but is to open it up to the public. If anyone is online that has any questions or comments, please raise your hand and we will call on you. Other than that, I'll go around the commission to see if there's any other, comments or proposed conditions, and then we need to make sure we do the grant the waiver. But Jonathan, anything else as far as this project or other potential conditions?
So just so I follow this properly, we're putting in no disturb signage, but we're not putting in a no disturb barrier such as split rail fence or something that we've done in the past.
Good question. And so if you did a barrier, it's up to, it's up to the homeowner what that is. It could be a split rail fence, it could be boulders, it could be whatever, just so that the reason that we've done this in the past is so that the lawn doesn't get expanded. So, you don't keep eating into this one here. You have wetlands right at the edge of the tree line. So that would be a question whether the homeowner would want to do that. I think the only exception would be the A19 because that's in the middle of the lawn.
Yeah, I would agree with not putting a fence or something that cuts through the lawn, but again, it's not necessarily about the current owner. I know there's talks of a deed, but if the property were to change hands in the future, then we wouldn't want the next owner to come in and push that boundary back without an understanding of what that was. I think that's the intent of that barrier, correct?
Correct. It's a visual barrier. So someone stops and asks what's going on, then hopefully they look at the signage and they can understand that there's a wetlands right there. But we don't want to dictate what that barrier is in that
Understood.
sense. Right. And it is really kind of just a way to have something there so people can see it. The signage kind of gets lost and they're very easily pulled up based on experience. So I don't know if the owner or your consultant has any suggestions on that.
My thought is, I see this everywhere. Many towns do this, and it makes perfect sense. It's generally done for construction of a new house, starting from scratch. This is going to add a lot of cost, fence wood to this garage bay addition. Boulders, we're not going to be able to pluck any boulders during construction. That's another thing you need to do when you're building a new house. It's a piece of cake. So I absolutely understand the thought behind the idea, but the only other thing I see, Shrewsbury likes arborvitaes, but if you do those super tight, that's a lot of money.
No, I wouldn't. We want something there, but we don't want to dictate you changing what your backyard looks like. Plus it's, that we understand that we're also not trying to do something that's overly burdensome as far as cost goes either.
Yeah, Sandy, I wasn't trying to push that. I'm simply saying on many of these other discussions that we've had in the past couple of years, this becomes a topic of discussion, not just signage, but a fence or boulders or something. That's why I'm leading that we didn't talk about a fence or boulders. That's why I'm suggesting that, is that something we're excluding from this conversation, and the tree line is an appropriate barrier? Or have we set a precedent in the past that we should be putting something in? Again, I'm not trying to be cost prohibitive to the project. I'm simply trying to follow the cadence that we've as a commission.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think, and Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times when there's a barrier, one, we're asking the applicant if that's something they can do, and another time it's when the house is being constructed, and there's a little less, it's a little more definitive as far as, because things are so disturbed. But again, it's a good, Jonathan, it's a good conversation to have because we've done it in the past. We want to be at least consistent in what our discussion is, so that we can make a thoughtful decision. Each permit that comes in front of us is unique, but we want to be consistent in kind of how we approach things. So,
Understood.
okay. So Patrick, Travis, do you have kind of comment on kind of the barrier and so forth?
Yeah, so question, so there's currently markers in the wetland that's supposedly delineating the original wetland.
Correct.
Is it possible, I don't know what they look like because there weren't photos in the delineation report. But if that's not standard to put those, it does seem odd to place something in a wetland. Is it something that can be moved and reestablish the new 25-foot buffer?
Well, so yeah, because of the location to put the 25-foot buffer, you'd be going in the middle of the backyard, if not in the corner of the
Right,
garage.
well, the modified buffer.
Yeah, but
we
yes, whatever
discussed.
buffer we can get based on the tree line and so forth. So we've done that a lot of time is we don't want specifically for people to lose their lawn, but we don't want them to go further into the woods. So that's the protection. In this one here, the wetlands are right next to that tree line, and it's changed. And if you do a subdivision like that and redistribute what the drainage is and the hydrology changes, you're going to alter wetlands, and that has nothing to do with this homeowner. I mean, that they have nothing to do with that. It's just it changes. That's why wetland delineations are only good for 3 years, because things change. I know from my perspective, I would definitely say the signs along what we just described. And at this point, based on that as a established lawn and that you have signage there, I don't think a barrier, because you're going to be doing along the edge of the tree line, I don't think that's something that needs to be done. But that's kind of my take on it. And I'm open for other people to give their opinion on that.
I like signage along the barrier on the tree line is consistent with some similar things we've done in the past.
Sadie, I'm good with that. I just wanted to bring up if there was a precedent or if there was a reasonable discussion there. I think that the tree line is a reasonable visual barrier. The signage will represent that. So if the house does change hands down the road, then at least the signs will exist. So the future owner's not going to just get a skidder in there and take out, they're in an acre or something. So.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. So one thing we do need to do is have a motion and a vote on work within the 25-foot no disturb. So that's granting a waiver. So I had opened it up to the public. Is anyone on? Has anyone raised their hands or anything else? All right,
Nope.
Not seeing anything. So is there any discussion about granting the waiver? I think this is a fairly straightforward one. Any questions on that? Do quick around the table. Travis, any questions on the granting the waiver for work within the 25-foot?
Nope.
And Patrick
No.
and Jonathan?
Nope.
Okay, based on that, I mean, I don't have any kind of comments on that. Can I have a motion to grant a waiver for work within the 25-foot no disturb zone?
I'll make a motion to grant the waiver for the 25-foot no disturb zone for 37 Magnolia Lane.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, roll call vote. Patrick?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I am also a yes, that waiver passes, is granted. As far as order of conditions, Leah, you had what we've been describing already is putting up the signage. We've already had discussion on the barrier that in this case is probably not warranted. And then the deed restriction, there's already one on here for the subdivision. We would just be reiterating that with the deed restriction, prohibiting further resource area alteration. And obviously, what we're talking about on this project is all buffer zone and no resource area alteration. And then the other one was no fertilization, herbicide, and pesticide. Was that a previous condition or is that a new one?
It was a previous, and we usually do it on new ones too. It's part of
Okay.
the standard package.
Yep, and it's just a good way to remind the owner that that's actually there. So based on that, I'd throw it back to the consultant. Do you have any other kind of questions on the conditions we're talking about?
No, I understand the conditions. I think they're reasonable. I did have a question on the signage though. Do you folks sell the placards or the signs at the office?
We
Or do
do
you have
not.
a company you can send us to that does it normally for?
So the local sign shops know what you'll be looking for. We do lay out the particulars and the conditions, and we do have samples in the office if you want to just see what they look like, but we don't sell them ourselves.
Okay,
It's a little 4x4 sign, nothing, it's not a billboard or anything. It's fairly,
Yeah.
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 Oh. Okay. That, still no one from the audience, from the public? Having that, who would like to, unless there's any questions from the applicant or the owner, we're gonna basically vote on it now.
I do not have any questions.
Based on that, would someone like to make a motion to issue the order of conditions with the conditions as talked about?
I'll make a motion to issue the order of conditions with the conditions as discussed previously.
All right, is that good enough, Leah?
Sorry, I'm muted. Sure is.
Okay. Based on that, do I have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan?
yes.
I am also a yes, the motion carries.
thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
And,
much.
In about 10 years, when I retire, I'll be on the commission. So
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I've been asked several times, but
So you have to understand, I said the same thing until it was a client of mine that was on the commission, and I just kept saying no, and then they lost someone and they like called me up begging, and that was like 10 years ago. So
yeah,
you may hear me calling and begging, okay?
yeah. Well, I do a lot of hearings in a lot of towns every night, so I'm kind of tied up. Someday though, someday.
All right, and that's what I used to say.
Yeah.
So,
Have a good night.
Sounds
Back and
good.
join us.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Leah. Anything else? I think we covered everything except for the last action item.
Yeah, we had the last two action items for Highfield subdivision.
Yep.
In the background, if Jan, if you want to promote Byron, I'll let him chime in when I'm done. But so we had pending the partial certificate of compliance they were looking for what they're terming as phase 1 of the subdivision. The items we had outstanding were where the roof runoff goes and details for their wetland replication areas. They did an analysis of where everybody's downspouts in phase 1.2. About half lead to driveways and the other half point to lawns. So we did get some answers there. Regarding the wetland replication areas, we were awaiting a letter from a wetland scientist going out and in the field and giving us details that came in later this evening. I'll let Byron speak to it further, but on first glance, it appears that several of the proposed replication areas were not constructed, and so they fall significantly short of what was supposed to have been replicated. I don't know if you want me to stop there and let Byron chime in, and then we can talk about the CR after that.
Yeah, why don't we take care of this one first and then we'll move on to the CR afterwards. So, yes.
Good evening. We received a letter from the wetland scientist this afternoon, late this afternoon. He examined 6 replication areas. Only 4 of them are in phase 1, and they're the ones in the letter listed as number 1 through 4. So those are the 4 that I'll talk about tonight. The first 2 replication areas are in the north end of the road near Old Upton Road. The areas that we staked out the areas for him to examine, he found both areas to contain winterberry, cattails, sedges, and goldenrod. The area number 1, he said, is 85% wetland species. Area number 2, he wasn't able to conclude the amount of wetland species in it. The 2 areas, another thing of note for the 2 areas is that they were kind of constructed in kind of a bowl area. There's not a clear connection to the wetland areas nearby. Then there is areas, what we were calling area 3 and 4. They are further down the road, kind of halfway between Old Upton Road and Providence Road. Area 3 is in the wooded area with an upland plant community. Doesn't appear to have been constructed. I had visited the site before, and he visited more recently, and it appears to be just the undisturbed woodland adjacent to the wetland area that has been flagged for the development. Area 4 doesn't appear to have any work in that either. It's near the golf course. It consists of lawn and upland trees. So in summary, areas 1 and 2 do have wetland species, but there's not a clear connection with the adjacent wetlands. Area 3 and 4 appeared not to have been constructed.
Okay. And Leah, when you have in your report, you're awaiting wetland scientist report. That's the one you got late today?
Correct.
Okay. And so what are you proposing to make up for the 3rd and 4th wetland replications? I mean, even though there's wetlands with the first 2, you mentioned the disconnect between existing wetlands, but that's one thing about the Wetlands Protection Act, and whether it's the local jurisdiction or whether the state, it is all about no net loss of wetlands. And you've got 2 areas that haven't been constructed at this point. Do you have a plan to, actually do something about those other 2 replication areas, whether they're in that location or someplace else?
Well, since the information just came in this afternoon, we don't have any plan yet, but what I would suggest is that we prepare a plan showing replication areas of at least the same amount of area as was originally proposed, and prepare those replication areas, obviously something adjacent to where the wetlands are now, and propose that as the new replication areas to replace the areas that were constructed.
Okay. I mean, obviously we have to review it and so forth, but that seems like a reasonable next step. I don't remember, the locations of the replication areas aren't always, it's less about where exactly they are. It's more about that they can be constructed and that they function, and that, at the end of the day, they are mimicking the wetlands in their functions. So, all right. So that sounds like a good next step. I don't know if anyone else on the commission has any comments. Patrick?
I don't have any other comments at this time.
Travis?
Nope.
Okay, Jonathan?
Nope, no questions, no comments.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess, next step, Leah, is just to wait for, a new proposition of where those replication areas can go. So,
Okay, so are we keeping this certificate of compliance request open and keep the process going through that? Or do we need to vote to deny a partial COC right now and they have to come back when,
they're done, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think it'd be probably cleaner if we deny it now. And you tell me, it's not gonna get done for another, I don't know, 6 months or so by the time, to plant it and everything.
and then typically we require 2 seasons of
growing.
monitoring.
Yeah. So, I would agree with that, just because it's not gonna be 3 meetings, it's gonna be a year. To get it wrapped up. I don't know if anyone else has any other opinions on that. For the commission. I mean, what if the applicant has any other kind of thoughts on that, as far as just, we're not ready to, close this out. I mean, this has got a little ways before we can do that.
I guess my only concern, I understand the time that would be needed for the process of getting approval and constructing it. Our client has been trying to get approval of the roadway as a public road. I don't know if there's any mechanism by which we could be addressing this without affecting the approval, because I don't think he really wants to wait another 2 years to conclude the road approval process if that can be avoided.
So Leah, is the issue is that planning board won't sign off on it till they close out the order of condition, get a certificate of compliance?
Yeah, I believe that is how it works, yes.
Okay.
I don't
I
know
would
if, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to suggest that we reach out to the planning department about this.
The thing I was gonna say is, if I'd have to look at the details that were laid out for the scope of work for this one specifically, but if we could change the wording on a partial to explain that, the roadway's done, the house lots are done, the replication is not, and then possibly hold money or something for that. If that would, again, I would have to ask planning if that establishes
Yeah.
enough completion with them. For him to continue with that process.
Okay.
But we would want something to, we would want to have something, whether it's funds or not issuing a full COC, or some leverage to make sure it gets done, basically.
I would totally agree with that. What we can do is keep this on, and then you can reach out to planning. I'm more concerned about getting the replication areas done. I don't particularly want to hold up any approvals of any streets, but I understand the planning, department and the planning board on why they require those things, but maybe a separate conversation can happen on that.
Okay.
All right. So we got action item for that one. And we'll just keep it on the agenda. And then if we can do a partial and if it's going to help that process, that's great. And then obviously the applicant will bring in a new plans on how to kind of make whole the replication areas. So. All right. move on to the conservation restriction.
Yeah, I don't have too much to report there. I have not heard back from their attorney in quite a little while. We had some outstanding questions we were trying to work through on wording in a few sections. He sent a proposal back and then I wanted to talk through it with the commission and him, but haven't heard from him in a bit. I don't know, Byron, if you're involved in that piece at all, or I'll reach out one more time to Mr. Knappich directly.
Yeah, I'm not directly involved, but I can reach out to him too and have him coordinate with you.
That's all I have.
Okay, yeah, let's see if we can get it wrapped up and get it going in a direction where we can get it fully wrapped up. So it's going to take a little while, but need to see the next plans on how they're going to, or where they're going to put the replication areas. I just want to make sure it's clear that I'm not tied that you have to put it in the exact location that the original drawings were. If there's a better location, then I am certainly open to that, but we do need to make sure that we replicate the wetlands as originally required as far as the square footage goes. So.
Okay.
All right, Leah, anything else?
That's all I have.
All you have, which means one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I knew Jonathan
Second.
would jump right on that one, and we got a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so Jonathan, you get to close it.
Yes, I'm also a yes. The meeting is adjourned.